Hi there, I'm Nia Malika Henderson and welcome to On Background. Amazon delivered international headlines Monday after founder and CEO Jeff Bezos, who also owns the Washington Post, said that his company wants to send so-called drones to your doorstep. It's Amazon's newest idea to get your packages to you in 30 minutes or less, all by the way of unmanned aircraft. The pitch from Bezos has drawn its share of critics, but businesses ranging from textbook shops to pizza places are looking into drone deliveries. And thanks to a recent FAA timeline for integrating these unmanned systems into our national airspace, some experts say it's not a matter of if they'll one day become a common sight, but when. Here to talk about the technology behind these aircraft is Missy Cummings. She was one of the Navy's first female fighter pilots and is now a professor of aeronautics and engineering at MIT and Duke, my alma mater, of course. And here to help us look at what comes next is Michael Toscano. He's president and CEO of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. Michael, you have brought a drone here along with you. I know you don't like us to call them drones, but I'm going to call them drones just for shorthand. Let's start off with Amazon's dream and the sort of current reality right now as it stands in terms of regulations. What is that?
Well, the national airspace is regulated by the FAA, and their whole purpose in life is to make sure that anything that flies in the national airspace does in a safe manner.
Right.
So the key aspect of that is to make sure that anything that flies in the national airspace can see and avoid, sense and avoid, or detect and avoid.
Right.
And also, if it flies in the national airspace, it can't fall out of the national airspace.
And what it looks like here, and we're going to put up a graphic here, and these are the dates that we're looking at in terms of the Federal Aviation Administration. In November 2013, there was a comprehensive plan submitted to Congress. On August 2014, the FAA, there will be a final rule for small civilian UAS operation, and by September 2015, a date that Bezos talked about as well, looking for the integration of civil UAS into national airspace.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's where we are just in terms of the landscape and the timeline.
Those are the dates that were set.
Yeah.
Some of those dates have slid a little to the right.
Right.
What's going to probably happen next is within a short period of time, the FAA is going to announce 6 test sites that will be identified. And those sites are going to be key and critical to be able to test and evaluate these unmanned aircraft systems to make sure that they are in fact safe to fly in the national airspace.
And apparently we'll have some hearings on the Hill over the next couple of months as well. Missy, I want to go to you on this. Give us a sense of where we are now in terms of the technology and use of these drones in sort of civilian ways, not military ways, but in more civilian ways.
Well, this is something that I've been working on for the last couple of years, is trying to get people to raise the awareness that, yes, in fact, there's a lot more commercial applications of drones, private uses of drones than the military. And this announcement by Amazon is really key to moving that message out. And I will tell you that I think the bulk of drone advancement has not even hit yet. Now that we've got all these commercial applications like forest fighting and agriculture monitoring and book delivery and sushi delivery and mosquito control. The list is pretty long of all the different applications that we can be using commercial drones for. Now that Amazon has jumped in the game, it's a serious game.
It's a serious game. Here is what Senator Jay Rockefeller, he of course is a Democrat from West Virginia. Amazon's plans for using drones to deliver packages is just one example of the potential this technology offers consumers and a reflection of the ingenuity of American business as we move forward toward integrating drones into civilian life and capitalizing on the economic opportunities they offer. We must make certain that these aircraft meet rigorous safety and privacy standards. Michael, I want to go to you on this. Talk about the economic opportunities here, which is something that Rockefeller talked about in this statement.
Okay. We did an analysis and a report earlier this year.
Yes.
And here is the copy of that report. And what it basically says is that within the first 3 years of getting into the national airspace that enterprise or individuals can fly and companies can fly in the national airspace on a commercial basis, the economic impact would be well over $8 billion. And what it basically comes down to is that for every year that we're not flying in the national airspace, it costs us about $10 billion a year. So it's about it's about $27 million a day that we're not reaping the economic benefits by not flying in the national airspace.
And we see, I think, globally that countries are a little bit more advanced in terms of taking advantage of this. I want to turn to, there was a real moment yesterday and Sunday with Bezos' announcement. Stephen Colbert sort of pointed out some of the dangers and some of the fears that I think for regular Joes like me that they have around the use of drones, unmanned aircraft systems. Take a listen.
Folks, these Amazon drones are a great idea and guaranteed to be safe thanks to all the drone testing we've done overseas. I mean, worst case scenario, a few homes get carpet gifted with some collateral generosity.
Talk about that, if you will, Missy. How safe are drones? Where are we in terms of that technology? People fearing that these things could fall out of the sky and hit you on the head, or you know, hit your dog on the head, or whatever it is. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think in general, we achieved a real safety milestone about a year ago when it became safer for the U.S. military to send drones on bombing missions as opposed to manned aircraft. So today in the military, currently drones are safer than manned aircraft in doing those missions. Now that's in the military. We're not quite there yet in commercial applications. There's still a lot of issues. I think one of the biggest ones that Amazon and other small companies face is battery life, power. These are electrically driven, and their battery life simply is not that long. And especially in bad weather conditions, high wind, and these things really, you know, in bad weather with rain and sleet and snow, they're simply just not robust to that right now. That's not to say that they couldn't be. And one of the really important aspects of this whole announcement is now that people understand that this is a serious application, I think we'll see a lot more money go into the research and development of these technologies to make them safer.
And Michael, we've also seen a lot of money going to lobbying folks on the Hill. Could you give me a sense of what sort of the politics on the Hill are? There's a drone caucus. I think something like $8 million over the past 4 years has gone to these folks on the drone caucus and lobbying the Hill.
There's actually 3 caucuses. There's 2 on the House side and 1 on the Senate side. And these caucuses are actually gaining more membership to them because of the economic impact and the potential that these systems bring. So as Missy identified, they are going to be safe, otherwise you won't be able to use them. And just like with an automobile, you have to get the car inspected and certified, you have to get the operator through some sort of training. The same thing is going to be true with UAS. There's going to have to be a certification that the platform is airworthy. You're going to have to certify that the operator knows what he's doing. And you may also have a certification of the operational environment. So for whatever the mission you're going to accomplish. So if you understand that you're going to use these for precision agriculture, you understand the boundaries of which you're going to fly over the fields. And so therefore you can say, okay, this is where I'm going to be operating the system. I can tell you there's only like a half a dozen people that are in that particular area. And I can tell you that the air traffic normally below 400 feet is this. So I can assure you that for the most part, it's going to be a safe operation. And that's what you should be able to do for all the systems that we're going to be flying, especially in the beginning where safety is paramount. Safety will always be paramount for any unmanned system.
Missy, feels like Jeff Bezos, who of course owns the Washington Post on Sunday and then on Monday, created a real cultural moment. And I want to look at some stats here in terms of the buzz he was able to generate. 345,000 Amazon mentions on Twitter on Monday, 6.8 million views of the Amazon Prime Air video, 17.4 million Google News results for Amazon drones. It feels like we lived in a different reality in some ways in terms of our thinking or not thinking about drones before this Amazon interview that Bezos has with 60 Minutes. Could you talk about what this moment means?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I was on The Daily Show about a year ago saying basically the same things, and nobody listened to me, but as soon as, you know, Jeff came out and said that, then everybody listened. So it's it's a monumental moment. And, for little researchers like myself who've really been trying to get the message out, I think his announcement is great.
I think
it really captures people's imagination. This technology is not going to be ready to fly tomorrow, and it's not going to be ready to be flown next year. A couple of years, and probably in another market. I suspect that the regulatory problems are not going to be solved in this country anytime soon, and we will see this. This will come to fruition. I suspect it will come to fruition in another country commercially before we do it in our own.
So I just want to follow up here. You think it'll come to fruition, me being able to get on some computer, call up Amazon, and have a couple of books delivered by drone? That's what you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, there's already competition out there. There's a company in Australia, Zoocall, who has already promised, and apparently the regulations are in place for them to deliver books in Australia via drones. And so Amazon has a competitor. It may not be a huge competitor, but the fact of the matter is some other company beat Amazon to the punch in another country. And, the UK, they have more relaxed regulations over unmanned systems. And in South Africa, you can have a beer delivered to you in a stadium.
Right.
Right. So, I think that there are more open dialogues happening in other countries, and I think that we really are in a dangerous spot in this country in the sense that we could lose cutting edge of drone technology if the regulatory aspect is not addressed. And that is why the Amazon announcement was so critical, because we already were losing the race. But now that Amazon has jumped into the game, it may be possible to recapture that.
It does feel like, Michael, though, that maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I think it's cool. Like, I mean, you brought this out. I was like, oh my God, it's so awesome. Oh, but there is, I think, for people, sort of this visceral fear of robots and these things flying around that you can't control. I mean, it's almost like having a vacuum in your house that can just operate on its own. You're afraid at some point it'll kill you. I mean, talk about that a bit.
Nia, there is.
Or is it just, maybe it's just me? Maybe I'm just a
No, I think you represent the norm in that there is a 50, 60 years of television media that has probably misinformed or misguided people's thinking of what this technology brings to the table. And most people, and one of the reasons why the word drone, most people have a negative connotation when they hear the word drone.
Right. So you guys have some rebranding to do in terms of that.
So it's an education aspect to understand what the potential is and what we're really talking about. So when you talk about a system, the thing that actually flies is only 30% of the system.
Right.
It's the mission package payload that it carries, the communication link between the two, a ground station, but more importantly, it's a human being. And that human being, in many cases, is the man or woman that knows how to do their job better than anyone else. Yeah. What this does, it gives them an extension of their eyes and their ears, in some cases on the ground ones, their hands, in order to do their job in a more effective, efficient, in most cases also a more safe way of doing that mission.
Yeah, and so do you agree with Missy that 5-10 years, this is going to be a reality?
It's interesting.
Amazon Prime Air or whatever?
If I said to you that we would have, do you think we'd have this capability in 20 years? Everybody says for sure.
Yeah.
So the question is how sooner is that time? Is it going to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And I think it's also going to be, it depends. It depends on the size of the platform you're talking. It will always be predicated on safety.
Yeah.
So if you know the operational environment that you're going to operate in, like search and rescue, firefighting, monitoring of wires, things of this nature, right, you can do this in a safe manner.
And Missy, and that seems to be where the real growth area is, places people don't want to go in terms of drone use.
I'm sorry, yes. But I think one of the things I was thinking about is that, there are a lot of issues in terms of getting over the public perception, but they also have a big issue when we talk about security of drones. This is going to be one big hurdle to work out, not just the security of the computer system and the being able to protect the GPS signal. But, I come from the backwoods of Tennessee. My family, who all own shotguns in Tennessee, can't wait to see these things flying by.
That's right. Shoot them down. Yeah. No.
So I think that it's a public attitude. We're going to have to really work on some socio-technical aspects of this technology as well as the technical aspects.
Missy Cummings, Associate Professor of Aeronautics and Astronautics and Engineering Systems, my goodness, at MIT and Duke, the best school ever, and Michael Toscano, President, CEO of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. Thanks for bringing your drone, Michael.
My pleasure.
We're not going to be able to fly it in here, but maybe one of these days. That's it for us today. Thanks for watching, and thanks again to our guests for being here. We're heading over to the Twitters with our question of the day. What do you think of Amazon's plans for drone deliveries? Tweet your answers to @background and use that hashtag #postback. We will see you right back here tomorrow.